What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Scene Invaders podcast channel. I'm Chad.
I'm Carly.
And this is Chad and Carly's Creepy Corner. So recently we just hit you with our first video on this channel. Well, not on this channel, but for Chad and Carly's Creepy Corner of the entire Final Destination series. And that was a hell of an undertaking. It taught me so much, though, about editing, and it made me so excited with moving forward with this channel. But I did bring up in a chat, hey, for our second video, let's maybe do something not quite so intense where I'm trying to edit in footage from 6 different movies into one video.
Yes.
So tonight we're going to talk about The Ugly Stepsister, where we follow Elvira in her quest to win the hand of the prince over her more conventionally attractive stepsister Agnes. And I'm curious to know, what put this movie on your radar? Because I had heard of it, but you're the one who saw it first and then brought it up to me.
Well, actually, some other YouTube channels that I watch, I saw that they had a video on it. I watched some spoiler-free reviews, and I was like, ooh, that sounds interesting. They kept saying, this is kind of like a Cinderella meets Substance, type of movie with the body horror. So as soon as they said body horror and fantasy, dark tales, like just a dark spin on the whole grim fairy tales, I was like, yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, absolutely. I had seen this movie from scrolling YouTube because I do watch a lot of film reviewers and things like that. So that's what put the title of it on my radar. And then I saw that it was playing at my local theater, and I just could not make the timing work for this. And I wanted to catch it so badly that way. And other than that, I really honestly didn't know anything about this at all. Not until we had done our show, the Scene Invaders podcast, where you had watched it that week. And it wasn't even until then that I knew that this was kind of like a dark Cinderella tale. And I thought that was extremely fascinating. And then when you said it's like Cinderella meets The Substance was my number one favorite movie of last year, yours too.
Mine too. Yep.
Yeah, that's all it took for me to know that I was dying to see this. And boy, I am so glad that I did, because lately we have gotten, I don't think this necessarily fits that category, but we've gotten those movies like Winnie the Pooh and stuff like that, where the rights have become public domain and now they can do whatever they want with these characters. And I don't think that's what's happening here, but I think you could sort of still lump it in that category in a way, where they're taking classic characters, a classic tale, and putting a horror spin on it. But also, in looking into this movie, I know we talked about this the other night, all I ever knew really was like Disney's Cinderella, that story.
Same.
And I didn't realize that there were so many more stories and tales about this that went back so far and that were so insanely dark.
Yes.
And this movie is insanely fucking dark.
But it's oddly funny too.
There's
a funness to it. It's just hard to describe it. Yeah.
I agree, because it's dealing with heavy things and heavy subject matter. But there is, like you said, there is this sort of fun to it all. You can tell that they're being a little bit playful here with what's going on, because essentially you're watching a woman absolutely destroy herself.
Yes.
For the name of beauty, and all just to literally win the hand of a prince that's going to be nothing but a piggy bank for her and her other sister and her mother and her stepsister that is now kind of maybe a begrudged stepsister in a way, because you find out that she's married into a family, that her mother has married this man for money. Well, he dies almost immediately in this movie, and you find out that he was thinking the exact same thing. He was thinking he was marrying for money as well, and they just both got fucked over in the process of this, basically. So now it's like a quest to try to win the hand of this prince who is going to be holding a ball, and essentially like auditions for a wife is what it boils down to.
To all the virgins.
Yep, to all the virgins.
Very important. They all have to be virgins.
And the pain that these, not all of them, but the pain that our main character Elvira will go through in order to try to be beautiful and to win his hand. And while I don't think that this movie is quite to the levels of The Substance in some ways, I thought that movie really pushed the boundaries of gore in a lot of ways, and like intense and uncomfortable moments. This movie still absolutely has some like shocking, like turn your head away moments, and they work so effectively here because you're not barraged with it constantly. It's got kind of a deliberate pace, and I don't mean to say that it's slow. It's not slow. I found it engaging from the moment it opened up until it ended, but it takes its time to build characters, and especially a character that you know from the story of Cinderella as one of the wicked stepsisters, that traditionally is not looked at favorably or viewed as a good person. But it takes this character and makes her extremely sympathetic, because you see the forces that are driving her to do the things she's doing to her body and to essentially ruin herself and basically start to like kill herself just to try to win a man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's horrifying. Like, I mean, she goes through, like, I mean, we're talking, this is a period piece, guys. This is not a
Mm-hmm.
modern film at all. And I mean, for God's sake, she has a fucking nose job. And I mean, that's kind of where you get started with this, and you see what lengths her and her mother are going to be willing to go to in order to transform her into something that's seemingly more palatable for the masses or for men. But I think ultimately, too, it's kind of like what makes her more palatable toward other women. And I think that's a very interesting concept here. And I asked you, I know, during the show, if you thought
Mm-hmm.
this was a feminist movie. And I think a lot of us probably hear that word and we think man hating. Like,
Yeah.
but I do think this is a feminist movie in the most positive way,
Mm-hmm.
because it does talk about, I think, a lot of the pressures and plight that women put on each other to perform, to look a certain way, the competition involved in all of it. And I thought this was just a fascinating way to show that. I mean, a pre electricity, essentially,
Right.
like nose job. And
Oh,
I,
and that whole scene, I just, I really feel for Elvira, because when you first meet her, she's bright-eyed, she's awkward, she's naive, she's just a daydreaming optimist,
she's
and
a kid. I mean,
she seems so sweet. I mean, she's just happy to be there. She thinks that she's gonna, live in this grand house and that they're gonna have money and get taken care of. And she really has I really didn't feel like she had a real sense of any ugliness until she's repeatedly told that by her mother and the finishing school dance instructor.
mhm.
It's just, ugh.
She's constantly beaten down, and again,
Yes.
mostly kind of by women more than anyone in
Yes.
this movie. Her stepsister is not terribly fond of her because, of course, like, she sees all the work that she's going through to try to be a competition to her
Hmm.
and try to win the hand of the prince, because everyone in this movie is kind of driven by like money and the success of, again, winning this man, which is it's a strange concept to think about, but I don't think it's all that foreign or all that
No.
weird even
Hmm.
nowadays for women to think that way, or people in general.
Yeah. Well, I mean, especially back then too, because as you could see when I mean, spoiler alert, as soon as she marries Cinderella or Agnes's dad, he basically drops dead that same night after they've
Mhm.
gotten married. And then Elvira runs in there, and he's got all of his other, I guess, family members that have come there to divvy up his estate and take
Mhm.
everything, because she's
Absolutely.
not going to get anything. They just leave her those like few coins. That's it,
Yep.
because she's
A
a
little,
woman.
yeah, a little handful of coins. So of
Yep.
course, when she sees that the prince is going to be holding this ball, essentially, to, again, like, audition a wife, calling all the virgins of the land, guys, she sees that as the opportunity to use her daughter to really, like, get herself wealth and make her family comfortable. And I mean, there is something, I think, that is kind of strangely sympathetic about that in a weird way, because she's a horrible person. Elvira's mother in this movie
Oh,
is fucking,
yes.
she's horrible, and she
Yes.
is clearly painted as a villain through the whole entire thing. But that also doesn't mean that you can't sort of relate a little bit to
Hmm.
kind of where she's coming from in this, and especially given the time period.
Yes.
And yeah, the length she's willing to push her daughter to, again, like, to completely, in the end of it all, and we are spoiling this, guys, like, I
Yeah.
mean, warnings abound, but yeah,
It's
to
like
essentially,
basically a descent into madness
yeah,
slash, yeah.
to ruin herself and put her
Yes.
body through so many insane things that nowadays are common. I mean, the
Mhm.
things she's having done in this movie, or the things she's doing, well, not all of them,
Yeah.
but a nose
Just
job
some of them,
is
yes.
common, and losing some weight is common, but not exactly in the way that this movie does it to
Yeah.
her, where she meets a lady who does feel sympathy for her.
Mhm.
And she's not, and to be fair to, I don't think Elvira is terrible looking. She's just a normal ass girl. She's a little
She's
bit awkward, a
yes.
little bit, she's not Agnes, she's not Cinderella, but
Mhm.
she's fine. She's like a normal, regular girl, and she's had it beaten into her that she's not good enough. And that's why she's willing to go through all of this shit. So essentially, this lady feels for her and sees that she's trying, and knows just the thing to do for her to help her out, and that is to give her a tapeworm.
Yes.
that she takes so that she can lose weight. And
Yeah, that whole scene, and I called her not Jane Seymour because she
oh my God, real.
yeah, I was like,
Holy shit, real.
not Jane Seymour gives her some hope and a tapeworm egg
Yes.
and
It,
says, it's what's inside that counts.
hmm
And you think it's a very sweet gesture. And you're like,
hmm
oh, that's really sweet. And then she opens it later and you're like, oh, it's a fucking tapeworm egg.
hmm
Ew, this is terrible. It's so toxic.
And I mean, I know what that is, I guess, but I had never really thought about it in a way that like this movie presents that to
Hmm.
us, because you see that it is helping her
Yeah.
by losing weight and stuff, but it's also completely destroying her through this
Yes.
whole entire movie, to the point where by the end of it, she's, I mean, lost tons of weight, but she's also losing her hair. She
Hmm.
also is losing the use of her body, because her body is not retaining any kind of nutrition or
Hmm.
anything like that. Then you are constantly met with these like gurgles and grumbles that her body is
Yes.
making.
I love the sound design of that, by the way. It's
Me
like
too.
always, it's always present after a certain point once she swallows that egg. It's
Yep.
like, ugh.
And I think that this movie is very smart, because it presents this tapeworm in such a big way. It is such a big part of the story that you don't necessarily see. You
Hmm.
just know that she's taken it, and you see kind of what is happening to her body. And I got a little bit afraid for a while that it was going to go over the top with the tapeworm, and like
Oh,
we were going to have some kind of like insane bullshit like busting out of her or something
oh, I'm
like
glad
that.
they didn't do that.
And I'm very glad
Yes.
that they didn't do that. This movie is not exactly grounded in reality, but there is still sort of a realistic
Hmm.
tone to it all that makes you still be able to like engage with it, and that keeps it a little bit grounded in reality. And it just again brings up very much like the substance, like the links that you're willing to go to make yourself what you think is like the idealized version of yourself. So it's dealing with so many of the same themes here, and the way the tapeworm was handled, and especially by the end of it, when she does eventually get rid of the tapeworm, it was shocking,
Yeah.
disgusting,
Yes.
and paced out or doled out to us in such a way that it was not too much.
Hmm.
There, like I
It
said, there
was
are a couple of,
almost there.
it was almost there.
It was, ooh, and that toe scene. Well, I will get
Oh,
to it.
oh my God. And definitely that toe scene.
Whew.
So I was talking with my partner, Chris, who, after he heard that we were seeing this movie, started to look into like
Hmm.
the lore of Cinderella, or like the older, like Hans Christian Andersen, like
Yeah.
more horror tinged stories of Cinderella. And yeah, he was telling me before I even saw this. So I kind of knew where we were going now after him and I talked, about like in the old stories, how the stepsisters were essentially like cutting their toes off and cutting their feet in order to try
Ugh.
to fit the lost slipper that the prince found, that was like his, what he knew he was going to marry. Whoever fits this slipper is going to be his wife.
Mhm.
So we get to a point in the end of this while Elvira is actively chopping her own toes off.
It's a great prosthetic. I loved the effects. The in-camera work, I mean,
Definitely.
very impressive.
And you can tell a lot of this was done practically for
Yes.
sure. And I know you appreciate that too.
Mhm.
And I think it just it suits the look of this film. I think that I think this is clearly not a high budgeted film, and
Mhm.
this is the filmmaker's first feature.
Which is
and
amazing.
and yes,
I'm
this
so
is
How
absolutely
yeah, I have this
incredible.
in my notes. How is this a first-time director? How?
Absolutely.
Like,
The attention to detail that you get in like the set design here,
yes, the
and the
visual storytelling, it's so rich. It's
right.
like I mean, obviously you have to pay attention, but just paying attention, you pick up so many things. Like, especially I just watched it for the second time last night and I was like, "Oh, wow, I didn't even notice that." And I was
Yeah.
really paying attention the first time, but it's just so many great shots and creative compositions, and especially like I would say, like when she goes back to Dr. Esthetician,
hmm
he or Estetique, I think that's what his name
Yeah.
is. She goes back there after she's had her nose fixed, um, and she goes to get the fake eyelashes
Oh,
put
that was
in.
the
That whole scene, like how it
Mhm.
like has the camera flashing like a blinking eye, and then the blood like filling up in the camera like for her eye. It was just, oh, it was so good.
This was the scene or the sequence in the movie that I found the most difficult to watch.
Yes, it was pretty bad.
And this was, I also thought, the scene kind of that felt the most, in a way, like where I see the comparisons to the Substance a bit, because
Mhm.
again, we're like pre-electricity guys. Like this is,
Yeah.
you don't have the modern conveniences of what people have today. So in order for this girl to get fake eyelashes that of course are going to enhance her beauty and make her prettier and stuff, they actively sew through her like
With a needle.
eyes,
Yeah.
yeah, through her
Ugh.
eyelids with a needle, these fake eyelashes. And to say that this is graphic is an understatement.
Yes.
And the prosthetics used here look
Oh.
so brilliant
Mhm.
because it just looks, it feels viscerally as you watch it, like you are watching needles poke through skin.
Mhm.
And in some movies I think that could be too much, but I think here it's so brilliant because it's just emphasizing again
How brutal it can be.
how brutal
Like,
it is and how brutal this competition is and how brutal people can be toward one another and what that will drive someone else to do due to that brutality. And I love that you brought up visual storytelling here because
mhm.
I posted on Twitter the night that I was watching. I tend to do this with everything I go to the movies and see, or whatever I'm watching at home. I either say currently seated or now playing. When I went back after the movie, I had a friend comment and say that he really wanted to see this movie, but was turned off by the fact that it was subtitled. And I love that you say visual storytelling here because that is what this movie is. I think this is something you could watch genuinely without even the subtitles on and just listen in the foreign language, and you still are going to know what is happening here because the storytelling is so rich through the
Mhm.
visuals. And I told him not to let that deter him from
Yes,
watching
please
this
don't.
because the dialogue here, it's, I don't want to say it's inconsequential, but it kind of is in the grand scheme of all of this. What they're saying never really truly matters that much. It's what they're doing, what you're being
Mhm.
shown, what you're seeing. Yeah, just settle in with this and watch it. And even if you want, if you're the kind of person who can't give your full attention, you have to be on your phone during it or whatever, I think the visuals here are so captivating and you're going to completely take away pretty much everything that you would want to from this movie. And it's just absolutely incredible. Another thing that I was kind of, I don't want to say shocked by, but in the day and age that we're in right now, where sex is so shied away from in
Oh,
film,
yeah. I think
it's,
probably because it's foreign.
yeah, it
You know
almost
what I mean?
is,
A
it
foreign
almost,
sensibility
yeah, exactly.
towards sex.
It almost is shocking anymore when like movies in the past tried to shock you with sex, but it was, you were so saturated in it and everything that it lost any kind of shock value.
Mhm.
And this film definitely has a couple of moments that I thought were, I was shook. I mean, like there are hard dicks in this movie, guys. Like, I
Yes.
mean, hard dicks, sex, and it's just a thing you just don't see all that much. If anything, I would say that's maybe one of the areas where nothing ever crossed the line in this
No,
for
I didn't
me.
think it was, like, gratuitous or anything or, you
But
know.
I did like it was the only thing that I ever watched through this that almost felt like it was towing the line of like being
Mhm.
shocking for shock's sake, kind of.
Yeah.
Because I think all the body horror elements of this really make sense and they go to hit home this message that the movie is trying
Mhm.
to send. Whereas the sexual elements didn't necessarily, they didn't offend me. Nothing offends me, for
Yeah.
fuck's sake. I mean, my God. But it was just the one, like, if there was a misstep here, that was like just like the slight like towing line of
Mhm.
a misstep for me. But I still thought it was kind of like strangely refreshing to see. Like, I'm gay, guys, and I'm on Twitter and like more boobs and horror movies and like that kind of stuff because I miss those days.
Well,
I
I
don't have
I
a
thought
problem
it
with it.
actually worked for the particular scene, which I'm pretty sure you're talking about in the stable.
Hmm.
But I mean that, and I get where you're talking about where it does really, it definitely toes the line. But I think it works for me because we're seeing it from Elvira's point of view. So she's
Yeah,
like, "What is
that's
that? Oh,
true.
what is that?" You know. So it's like shocking. It's like bam.
That's very
So I
true. And I guess I wasn't thinking about it in that way. And I like that you mentioned that too, because especially seeing it from her point of view,
Mhm.
where she is a more innocent character in all of this. She's just sort of being drugged through all of this very innocently. Her age is not specified here, but if I
She's
had to
18.
guess, oh, is she? Did they
She's
specify
18.
it in the movie?
She's 18 and she's 5'9".
Okay,
They
gotcha.
say it at the ball when they
Oh
yeah,
shit. Okay.
when her mother is leading her around like a puppy and she's
Mm.
making little puppy
Oh
noises,
my
like,
god,
to
hell.
be obedient, like, to
Roof.
be a good girl.
Being a good girl. But no, for some reason I didn't catch that. And I have only seen this one time, but I was going to guess her age at about 16.
Yeah, she's
And
very naive. She definitely doesn't act like she's 18.
mhm.
So she's probably more so got the mentality of about a 15-year-old.
And one character that I thought was just a little bit underutilized here that I would like to see just a little bit more from was her sister.
Yes, Alma.
Because I thought she was so interesting. I loved her
Mhm.
look too. I loved just the way she looked in general. And I was kind of
Yes.
surprised in a way at the beginning that they didn't try to take her character and make her more, but also like the challenge there wasn't as great, I guess. And
Mhm.
again, Elvira, she's not terrible looking, but it was a more of a challenge to make her compete with Agnes
Yes.
or the Cinderella type character who just is a natural blonde beauty. She
Oh my
looks
god.
great,
Yep.
like with
Even in
smudges on
soot.
her face and
Yes.
like, yeah,
Dirt.
like she looks.
Gorgeous. No matter what.
But yeah, as this movie winds down, I mean, like we alluded to earlier, like there's this frantic feeling of having to win, essentially, that now that she's gone through all of this, I think absolutely hits with her. And she's
Mhm.
like, I've had fucking eyelashes sewn on me,
Yeah. I
bitch.
deserve this.
Yeah, I have a tapeworm inside me. I
I'm
have
hungry
gone
all the
through all of
time.
this. Yeah, I've gone through hell for this, and now it's on. And the a slipper is left at the ball because Cinderella shows up kind of anonymously with a veil over her face. The prince feels that connection, like that's very like the classic Cinderella story. And of course she has to leave suddenly because her chariot is only going to be good for so long. Essentially it has an expiration date or an expiration time, really, more likely. And she does leave a shoe behind, and he was like, I know that I have whoever fits this shoe for me, they're the person that I'm going to marry and who I'm going to share the rest of my life with. And it gets into again like the final like images of body horror of her trying to like pretty viciously chop her toes off and make when he comes around. And what's so funny, I thought this was so funny. You mentioned earlier that this was surprisingly funny, and I
Mhm.
agree. It's sick and it's
It's
twisted
darkly humorous.
and it's sadistic, but you see this like great scene where she's like agonizing and like taking a cleaver and chopping her toes
Oh,
off, and her mom comes in the room because she's screaming, and she was like, dear, you cut the wrong toes off, like it's the
oh
wrong
god.
foot,
He
he
has
has
the
the
other
other
shoe.
shoe. And I was just like, no.
I
Oh my
know.
god, how horrible.
And
So mom takes it upon herself to whack at the other foot, to because she's in it to win it too, man. She's clearly in it to win it from the beginning of this.
terrible. Terrible mom.
Yeah, terrible mom all the way around. But again, like it, there is a mild
Yes.
sympathy to it.
You understand what her motivations are and
Sure.
why she has those motivations, even though she goes about it in completely the wrong way.
I was talking with Carly about this like in chat the other day, and it was actually right after I watched it. I messaged her and I was just like, what a, a tragic character
Yes.
Elvira is in this, because you just watch this girl go through absolute hell to essentially in the end of it all a, achieve nothing. I think the movie tries to leave you on a slightly high note, kind of, but
Mhm.
it's not like a super high, not by
No.
any means. It's not like everything's great, she marries the prince, like all of
No.
this kind of shit. But I think it does try to at least like pull back from the complete and enveloping like darkness that this movie could have gone into. um but it is not a total downer, just a little
No.
bit, just a little bit of a downer. And today, before I went to the movies, she messaged me and was like, hey, did you happen to catch this post-credit scene? And I am on the record, bitch, I fucking hate mid and post-credit scenes. I'm
I do
sick of
too.
them as fuck. However, when it adds something to the story or
Mhm.
adds something meaningful, I can be there for it. I would still rather see it as the main body of the piece of art that I'm enjoying. But this post-credit scene, absolutely, it worked for me.
Hmm. It actually made me dislike Agnes's character a little bit more than I mean, I didn't dislike her in the movie, but
No,
obviously
you see where she's
we're
coming from too.
yeah,
Like, I
but
mean,
we're
she's
more meant to
sympathetic.
kind of sympathize with Elvira and kind of follow her because,
Mhm.
she's not naturally beautiful like
Sure.
Agnes is. But yeah, after watching that end credit scene, I'm like, "Oh, okay."
So
She
at the
didn't
end of the
even yeah, so she is essentially Agnes is essentially grieving her dead father the entire movie. She keeps going to the evil stepsister and saying, "Hey, when are we going to bury my dad? We need to bury him. He's just been sitting in this other room rotting." And then at the end credits, it shows you the room and he is still in there rotting.
Mhm.
She never fuck
Cobwebs, everything.
she never fucking went back and had her own father buried after she married the prince.
It just changes the way that you view so many parts of this movie. In that, just
Hmm.
it's such a short moment too. It's
Yes.
like
Very short.
maybe
It's like
10 or
7
15
seconds
seconds. Yeah,
maybe. Yeah, it's
it's
very
10
short.
seconds. Like, it's so short. But it really changes the way you look at things, and it also goes to show you again, like, sort of the motivations and like the mentality of this and sort of the game of all of
Hmm.
this in a
The
way.
cutthroatness and
Yeah,
everything.
how cutthroat it is, and it makes you wonder about how much care there really ever even was for that, because at the time, like during this movie, after her father dies, that's kind of all she has to cling on
Hmm.
to in a way. She's thrust into the situation with people who are horrible to her and has nowhere to go, and I think is clinging on to, my father is dead, let's do the right thing to take care of him. But as soon as her life picks up and takes on a positive turn, all of that is thrown out the window and just absolutely forgotten, because
Yep.
now she's living a life of luxury and wealth. And this is the way you do a post-credit scene, in
Yes.
my opinion. And one other thing I wanted to mention about this movie, and I know we talked about it probably on the podcast. We talk so much, man, like
Hmm.
podcasts or before the podcast or over chat, but the music choices in this movie.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes, please. Because I was going to say the music is fucking awesome. It's almost like a strange mixture of Tangerine Dream meets um, Ennio
Yeah,
Morricone. Yeah.
it
So,
adds this sort of, what it kept making me think of was the film Marie Antoinette, where they
I haven't seen
take
that.
oh, from Sofia Coppola.
Yeah.
Oh
No, I know
my
who it's
god,
by. I haven't seen it though. Yeah.
I highly recommend that for sure.
Okay.
It doesn't go quite as far as Marie Antoinette goes, but it takes this very period film with very period things happening and adds this modern sheen to it. And I thought that that was so fascinating here, because it never goes fully, like, I mean, you're not listening to like
No,
but
no. But it
the
is like
music,
it's got like an electronic feel, but it's
it
also
does.
spaghetti western like
Mm.
for the opening sequence. It's so strange, but it's like I as soon as that opening the title came up and it had the whole opening credits, I was like, okay, I'm
Yeah,
in.
it works and it's effective, and it, for me, it drew me more into the
Hmm.
movie, because I think that, like I said before, this is not a slow movie, but it's deliberate in its pacing. And I think that it could come across at times as maybe just a touch on the dry side, because it's not body horror every 5 minutes or anything
Hmm.
like that. And I think that this helped to sort of add this energy and vitality to the movie, just by having a slightly like more modern score at times. And I thought it worked extremely well here. And that I love, music can be such a powerful part of a movie. Like The Substance, for example, it was another one where like the
Hmm.
score of that movie is so
Really worked.
incredibly memorable, because it just infuses this energy to it. And that's exactly what happens here. And I thought it was just extremely well done.
Yeah, I agree. I'm still surprised that this movie. I mean, granted, you could probably tell it might be low budget, but it's like just over $4.2 million for the budget
Oh
for
wow.
this movie. Yeah,
It
I was
looks
like,
more expensive than that.
right, like way more. And also the whole, I know I already mentioned the prosthetics, but going back to just the minimal prosthetic work that's done on her face.
Yeah.
Like before she goes through her transformation, I think she's got like fake like little cheeks to make her look a little bit fatter. She's got like little fake dimples in them. It just
I
these
wondered.
little touches. And it's so funny because I was watching it with Trey last night and he was like, "No, I think she really lost weight for the role." And I was like, "No, I don't think I'm pretty sure
I
that's
was.
because I mean
I wondered myself.
it looks very real, but there's a couple scenes that I could tell. I was like, skin doesn't move that way. I was like, that's got to be fake.
Sure, sure.
But
But
it still looks great.
I
I
think
only
the
know
fact
that
that it would.
because yeah.
I think
Sorry,
the
I was
fact
just
that it
gonna
would make someone wonder is like a testament to how well
right.
done it is. Because
I
I kind of
agree.
toward the end too, especially after the tapeworm and she's lost this weight and stuff. Like the transformation is not huge, I wouldn't
Hmm.
say, but it's big enough to where you're like, how did they like do
Yeah.
that? How did they pull this off and like make all these subtle changes that add up to
Hmm.
this like very grand change? This is the kind of movie as a horror fan that you want to turn your friends onto. You feel like you watch something special, like this
Yes.
gym, and anyone that you can put eyes onto it, I think feels very exciting. I would feel so excited. And also, I think when you watch it, you know who and who not to recommend this movie to. This
Yes.
is not for everyone, for sure. This is not like a crowd pleaser. This is not like a general audience movie. But you know who amongst your friends you could say, you need to see The Ugly Stepsister, and they're going to
Hmm.
like absolutely respond to this and be like, yes, this movie was amazing. Thank you for putting it on my radar.
Agreed.
Did Trey like this?
Oh yeah, no, he did. He
Okay.
did too. Yeah, he watched it with me twice. So, and I think the
Oh, you
after the
watched it
first
both times. Okay.
right, yep. And yeah, we're terrible parents. We let our 9-year-old son watch it. Of course, we covered his eyes during certain scenes because we knew
I
it was
mean, I don't,
coming up.
sure.
And
I don't
well,
think
and
that this
fast
is the
forwarded through a little
worst.
bit, but
Okay.
yeah. But yeah, he was
I,
like, "Wow, I can't believe you guys let me watch that." I was like, "Well, you were begging us to watch it."
did your
So
daughter watch this?
she said she was gonna watch it, but then she went to bed, so she was
Oh,
lame.
okay.
She didn't watch
Oh,
it.
okay. Gotcha. Right.
I was
She's like,
trying to get her to watch it because she liked the substance, so
yeah, I was going to say, I think this is a film that, like, for the right minded, like, teen, actually
mhm.
has valuable lessons in it.
Oh, yes.
I think some people may be tired in some ways, maybe of, or may find this, I guess, preachy kind of. I did not get that vibe from it. I know some
No.
found the substance to be a little bit on the preachy side because, I mean, the substance kind of, it does hammer you over the head with its messaging, and this movie does as well. But I think it's important messaging that
Mhm.
is handled in such a unique and interesting way that it elevates the importance of it as opposed to watering it down or making it feel like a slog to get through.
Yeah. And it's not rude about it. It
No,
treats its audience with respect.
but yeah, this was something I was so glad after you saw it and liked it
Mhm.
that you put really even more heavily onto my radar, because I've said it 100 times. I'm somebody who prefers to go to the movie theater and watch movies. And once things kind of leave that arena, they slide down further on my list, unfortunately, because
Mhm.
I like the theater. I would prefer that experience all day, every day. But to hear how positive you were on it and how enthusiastic you were about this, it just made it feel like something I had to watch right away. And any comparison to the substance right now, guys, I'm here for it. And I'm absolutely going to go and see anything that has to do with that.
Yes.
So that was our take on The Ugly Stepsister, guys. I think I think I can speak for both of us when I say that this is an absolute must see, especially if anything we described here in any way hits
Mhm.
for you. I mean, this is body horror. There's psychological elements to it. It's a beautiful period piece. It's just extremely well made across the board, and especially considering the just over $4 million budget,
Mhm.
this is just it's a treasure, guys, and something you'll love to turn your friends onto if you're anything like what we are. And yeah, this was just such a pleasant surprise. I believe this is a Shutter film, so I think you can
Yes.
catch it streaming there. Thank you so much for coming back. Second episode of Chad and Carly's Creepy Corner. We just had a podcast episode up, so subscribe to the channel for that. Those happen every week. We're going to try to make these happen every week as well.
Mhm.
That is the goal here. I know coming up soon, I'm not going to dictate an order at this moment, but we are going to talk about the 28 Days, Weeks, Years Later series. Megan 2.0, hold on to your vaginas, guys, is coming. And I would love to discuss that because I think the reason I want to discuss that so badly is because Chris hasn't seen the first one. I know he's going to get a huge kick out of it. And the trailer for Megan 2.0 is
so fun.
It's
so silly.
It's so fucking stupid, but in the best way possible, that it makes me very excited for that release as well. But yeah, come here, guys, for all of your movie recommendations and now horror recommendations. That's Carly and I's thing, man. We love horror. We want to talk about it more. And I know I mentioned it on the last episode of Chad and Carly's Creepy Corner, but we want to diversify this channel and just make it kind of a one-stop shop for everything, anything movie-wise. We have 4 very distinct voices here and distinct loves of movies, and we have great conversations and great recommendations and great topics to discuss and all of that. And we appreciate you coming back. And we'll see you all in the next episode of this and the next podcast.
Bye.
Bye, guys.